So we see about a 22% increase in conversion rates across the site, about a 34% reduction in customer acquisition costs, and about a 41% increase in net LTV. All of our metrics are net. We always talk about it, TryNow. You cannot take gross to the bank. So for us, it's always net conversion. So ultimately keeping something, net LTV, like actual net revenue after returns, and then customer acquisition costs, actually acquiring that customer.
Welcome to today's episode of the E-Commerce Revolution podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of e-commerce and uncover the tools and tactics that empower today's emerging entrepreneurs. Our podcast is part of our community with the same name. The community is geared to providing emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs with courses, content, and coaching to help you all launch and grow successful businesses. Check us out at ecomrevolution.co. Let's get things started. Welcome to another episode of the E-Commerce Revolution podcast. I'm your host, Ramin. Great to have everybody here today. And today I'm joined by an entrepreneur who's transforming the way we shop online. Ben Davis is the CEO and founder of TryNow, the leading try before you buy, or TBYB platform for Shopify merchants. His company is revolutionizing e-commerce by removing one of the biggest barriers to online shopping: uncertainty. With $24 million in funding from investors, TryNow is helping brands increase customer confidence, boost conversions, and drive higher lifetime value. Their innovative approach is already powering 247 plus Shopify merchants, including Hammett, which my wife absolutely loves, and Billy Reed. Ben is passionate about customer-centric innovation, and today we'll dive into how TryNow is bridging the gap between online and offline shopping, the world of try before you buy, right? The impact of AI and the future of e-commerce, and what brands can learn by having a relentless focus on customer experience. So, without any further ado, please welcome Ben Davis to the E-Commerce Revolution podcast. Ben, it is wonderful to have you here.
It's wonderful to be here.
Yeah,
Ramin, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. I love this concept. I think I've personally experienced it in the world of Amazon, and it saved me a lot of time and headache, not knowing what I want, right? Not knowing what it's going to look like to be able to implement that. Let me make sure, first of all, that I summed everything, all your credentials up correctly. Anything I missed in there that you'd like to tell us?
You nailed it. You nailed it, Ramin. But we are all about getting great products into homes.
Great.
And the conditions in e-commerce, as it's been for the past 25, 30 years, have inhibited that. Mm-hmm. We've grown accustomed to buying products before we try products online. But that's very backwards to how we have been shopping for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
And so we're making commerce a lot more natural for shoppers and kind of flow with human psychology. So it's all predicated on human psychology and allowing great products to have their time to be experienced by shoppers.
That's really important. And right now, this is built for the Shopify platform. Are there plans to expand beyond that? Or, Shopify is massive, so I'm sure you have enough merchants out there to continue to get the word out about the app, right?
Yeah, as the Shopify market just continues to grow, we're just focused on being the leaders within the Shopify space to continuing to build out the market within Shopify. So we work very closely with their product and engineering team on native functionality directly within Shopify checkout. So our relationship there is quite solidified. And so we're focused on continuing to build the capabilities and functionality within that space. And whenever you kind of expand across platforms, you dilute something, and that usually results in diluting your product. And for us, we never allow our product to be diluted. We're very, very product led and maniacally focused on solving problems for our customers with a product solution. And as such, we just keep building product depth into our platform. So Shopify allows us, a focus on Shopify allows us to do it. And as their platform grows, as do we.
Yeah, no, love it. I love it. And I will say that, they continue to innovate as a platform and obviously make app developers and technology around them even better too. So I think it's wonderful. Well, Ben, take me back to the origin story. We chatted a little bit before we had this recording about what was that moment where you realized this was TryNow. You were going to launch this, and this was a much needed application out there.
Yeah, so I was hired by David Sachs and his wife Jacqueline Sachs to start a brand for them, and it was an apparel company. And David was one of the founders of co-founding COO of PayPal, founder of Yammer, Craft Ventures, the All In podcast, which as many have listened to. And in the process of launching the business, I wanted to offer a try before you buy program. We have this incredible fabric and stitching and quality of construction of the garment. There's more premium priced kids wear, baby wear, and loungewear for moms. And when we shared those products with friends and family, and they saw it and they felt it and they can understand the quality, they immediately understood it. Online, you just can't experience it through a browser window. And so we were thinking about ways to get our products into the hands of shoppers more easily. How did we reduce friction? So things like pop-up shops and events and retail are all options. And so obviously brick and mortar and having a 100-store footprint would accomplish that. Very expensive, very difficult to do. And so what's a more capital efficient way? And so as we just kind of thought about the problem space, boiled it down to first principles, we said, well, isn't the problem that shoppers are buying products sight unseen? They don't know. And as you mentioned in the intro, it's all around uncertainty. And so something that we were thinking about, how do we reduce friction? And then all of a sudden we get a bill from the photographer. And the photographer had a phenomenal photographer, very fat bill. And we said, wow, this is a lot of money. So I called him up. I said, just talk to me about photography. He's like, well, when you have fabric this great, it's really hard to elevate that. And good photography can do that. And he was right. The pictures are phenomenal. And you can really tell how the fabric is differentiated. But it's still not quite enough. And so we put up 2 landing pages, a try before you buy landing page and a normal buy now landing page. And the try before you buy page and ads converted 300% better. So when we saw the impact, we said, okay, we should go all in on this. But there was no software that existed. TryNow was born out of a need for ourselves. Called 5 different brands. 4 other brands said, yes, we'd like to use it. So, okay, there's something here. And so we expanded. Business started pretty predominantly in apparel, largely because kind of the concept of converting the living room to the fitting room just really resonates, makes a lot of sense. Now the business is about 60% non-apparel, beauty being one of our biggest verticals. So we work across verticals from filtered shower heads like Jolie to apparel companies like Elwood and True Classic and Billy Reed, to beauty brands like Laura Geller, Cover FX, AS Beauty, Alley-Oop, Yensa, and others. So anything that is discretionary should be tried. Mm-hmm. And that's how we've been shopping online that's how we've been shopping offline forever.
Right.
And so all of a sudden we flipped the model. But back in 1995, I think that was the first e-commerce transaction, 1995. Yeah. 2000, obviously, it became much more pronounced.
Sure.
We didn't have the ability to separate an authorization from a payment capture. Mm-hmm. We didn't have shipment tracking APIs to know when that package was delivered. We didn't have returns infrastructure to know when that item was returned and accepted. We didn't have 3PLs that were sophisticated enough to put returns back into stock within 24 to 72 hours. None of that kind of plumbing and infrastructure existed. Now that it does, it's time to rethink the whole kind of payment mechanism that's on top. And if you walked into a store and you wanted to try that polo you're wearing, maybe in 2 sizes, a couple pairs of pants, maybe that hat, I said, hey, Ramin, before you try these on, just give me your credit card. I'll charge you for $372.33. But if you don't like it, go to the front. You'll get a refund. It'll hit your statement in 7 business days. You'd say, Ben, you're crazy. I'm not going to pay for this. And you'd be right. E-commerce should flip.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, just tell me about the, are there any fears, when you talk to merchants about, oh, my return rates are going to be, crazy and I'm going to have to deal with all the shipping or is the infrastructure really in place, as you said, that, we don't need to even worry about that?
Yeah, so definitely. And it particularly depends on the category. So for higher return rate categories like apparel, number one objection, number one concern.
Okay.
For lower return rate categories like cosmetics, less of a concern, although still a concern. There are a few things that we have in place. I think the first piece is that more trying means more buying. And so the number one thing positively correlated with LTV, net revenue per customer, is first purchase order size. So the more products we can get into that shopper's home on that first order, the more they're going to keep and the more frequently they're going to come back. The number one inhibitor in getting more products into that shopper's house, however, is paying in the face of uncertainty. And so if you can keep the cart value due today $0, amount if kept, whatever it is, 300, 400, 200 bucks, you get more products into your home and that really activates that customer. So now I see, hey, you don't only sell t-shirts, but you also sell button downs, and you also sell pants, and you also sell sweatshirts. And I was able to try, broader capsule. Or in the case of color cosmetics, I was able to try a few different shades and, maybe some other products that maybe I wouldn't have otherwise tried. And so the first thing is creating the conditions to try more from that brand, experience more from that brand, ultimately resulting in stronger unit economics because the incremental revenue pays for those incremental returns. Now, on the returns cost side, we have a feature called the Buy Zero Restocking Fee. And this is, we can kind of talk about our general philosophy on restocking fees, but the Buy Zero Restocking Fee is assessed only if a shopper keeps nothing. But if a shopper keeps something, returns are free. So the shopper messaging is something like, hey, Ramin, keep something, returns are free. Keep nothing, just a $15 fee. For lower AOV businesses, and maybe a $10 fee. For higher AOV businesses, like Christy Dawn is one of the brands we work with, $350 to $400, $500 AOV, they may have a $20, $25 Buy Zero Restocking Fee. But it does two things. One, it covers the cost of a Buy Zero. So if a shopper returns everything, that fee is assessed and it covers the cost of the shipping and the restocking fees at the warehouse. So the brand is net neutral. But the second thing, and arguably even more powerful, is that the shopper is now making decisions to actively avoid that fee. So they're constructing a cart that they are sure that they're going to find something to love. So instead of just trying one item, which is obviously not likely to find something to love, but try that one item, maybe in an exercise, maybe try a few different styles, a few different top, a bottom, or lip gloss, color cosmetics, a moisturizer, a broader assortment, so that you could be sure that you find something to love. And now the merchant and the shopper have aligned incentives. Merchant want the shopper to find something to love. The shopper does too. And that's a really powerful lever to control costs and address, the very important reality of return costs and increased shipping costs.
Yeah. Wow. Do you have a degree in psychology? Because I feel like you guys have really looked at the psychological. I mean, this is you're leveraging everything in that. Even before the transaction happens, it sounds. I mean, as you're describing that, I'm already thinking, yeah, I would absolutely do that. I would definitely build my cart to know that there's at least one thing in there that I want to hold on to. Wow.
I mean, you may be the first person who have ever asked me that, but my parents would be very proud because I actually have a degree in finance and accounting, which is arguably useless, but my parents are psychoanalysts.
Oh, wow.
So I guess we live at the cross section of psychology and finance.
So, tell me about the data. You guys must track a lot of data from the merchants that, you work with in terms of, you mentioned net LTV, lifetime value, conversion rates. What are you seeing as the minute some merchant installs the application and it's incorporated into their into the shopping experience? What are you seeing in terms of those metrics? How quickly are they rising?
Yeah. So we see about a 22% increase in conversion rates across the site, about a 34% reduction in customer acquisition costs, and about a 41% increase in net LTV. all of our metrics are net. We always talk about it, TryNow. You cannot take gross to the bank. So for us, it's always net conversion. So ultimately keeping something, net LTV, like actual net revenue after returns, and then customer acquisition costs, actually acquiring that customer where they keep something. You talked about psychology in the earlier question, and all of e-commerce is there's a lot of psychology in e-commerce. Take free shipping thresholds. Great psychology, and that's really more on like kind of aligned incentives. Performance marketers will lean very heavily into psychology. You'll see, and oftentimes not brand enhancing psychology. So you'll see banners on the site that says like, this deal is going fast, like get it in 4 minutes and 59 seconds, 58 seconds, 57 seconds. That's actually very effective. So there's a lot of levers like that, bundling, free gifts, things like that help address kind of human psychology to convert that purchase. Now, our perspective is that's not bad. Tickers and expiring discounts and other strategies and tactics like that. It's really a tactic. It's not a strategy. And so for us, we're focused on customer-centric psychology, not trying to game that system. Because we find that when you focus on like gaming the system, there's not durability to that strategy. It may last for a month or 6 months or a year until everyone starts doing it. And then you need to find the next hack. But for us, we focus on things that will never change. No one's going to ever say, hey, I really prefer to buy that product before I try that product. Things along those lines. So us, we're focused on things that will never change with a shopper for 100, 200, 300 years. So that try now and try before you buy as a concept is here to stay, here forever.
Yeah, no, that's it's brilliant. Well, I mean, you mentioned that cosmetics is a vertical that is starting to take off, and really a lot of this all started with fashion. Fashion was the beginning of this. But what verticals, other verticals out there, do you see that should be using it that maybe haven't necessarily embraced it? You've had some conversations, but they're not seeing it yet as something in there, but you would love them to.
Yeah. So here's a new vertical that is taking off for us. It is anything in the razor blade business model concept. So if for the product to work, it needs a recurring subscription. Mm-hmm. Now, to acquire a customer on a recurring subscription is sometimes challenging. A lot of shoppers are adverse to subscriptions. Everyone has had a bad experience with subscriptions. Having a hard time canceling and some dark patterns and things along those lines, which we are very much against at TryNow because it is vehemently anti-customer centric and we are vehemently customer centric. But take Jolie as an example. Jolie is a filtered shower head company. And Ryan Babenzien, the CEO there, has built this whole market. And talk about a concept, a business model that is like right in front of your nose, but no one really thought about it in a broader way, which is that we filter the shower that goes into our body that we drink, but we don't filter the shower that goes on our body. And there's so many chemicals that's in the water, and we spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on skin serums and moisturizers and all of this product, but meanwhile we're putting pollutants on our face. So this is like step 0 for your skincare routine. He took a kind of concept around filtering water and brought it to beauty in a very like fundamental first principles way and communicated that in a brilliant, sharp message. And their big objection is efficacy. Will this product work for me? Will I feel the impact on my skin and my hair? When Ryan and I started working together, he said, we are confident that they will. They just need to try it. And so they're bringing their shoppers that come onto their site. They're embedding TryNow behind their subscription offering. And typically the lever to get a shopper to subscribe is subscribe and save, right? If you subscribe, you get some savings. That's great, but it becomes a race to the bottom. To get more people to subscribe, you have to have a deeper discount. And as you have a deeper discount, you have lower margins, which means you need to make more money up on that filter 3 months later, 6 months later, 9 months later. So it becomes a challenging model if you're using discounts to do it. Now, Jolie never had those issues. They just kept growing up and to the right very quickly. But they use TryNow to drive an even higher subscription attach rate, seeing about a 20% improvement in subscription attach rates. Because by embedding TryNow behind the subscription offering, the one-time purchase offer becomes that much less compelling.
Interesting. So they only attached it to the subscription. That was the only way you could do the. All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Smart.
And so then we increase the numerator, LTV, and we decrease the denominator, customer acquisition costs. And so to be able to pull both LTV up and CAC down at the exact same time, immediately after implementation, creates like a step function change for any business that's selling in that space. So that would be kind of what I think will become a very hot space in 6 to 12 months from now for us. But currently, you can count the number of brands that are doing it on one hand.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, I remember, hearing about Jolie, a while back and taking a look, and I don't think they had implemented at that point. But the first question in my head was, does it work? And that's the uncertainty, I guess, that we're talking about that really just gets, completely evaporates with this. Like, how could you not be? There are no there's just nothing. There's no objection at that point.
Yeah.
You just try it. As long as, I guess, as long as you have those psychological elements in place where the consumer, feels good about, oh, okay, this is not going to cost me, anything in returns, or there's not going to be an issue. And so I think everybody wins in this scenario.
If the Jolie product didn't work, then TryNow wouldn't work for them, right? And that's kind of the beauty of our model, is that Jolie product does work, and therefore TryNow works really well, and the return rates are not increased by TryNow because the product just works.
Yeah.
And so we kind of often joke internally at TryNow that we accelerate the growth of a business selling a great product, and we accelerate the demise of a business selling a bad product. Now, the reality is not really true. We also accelerate the growth of a business selling a bad product. It's just that the results are not as profound. But that's like our whole ethos. Like, if you've got a great product, like, we help get it into your homes, and it's self-selecting. Brands that are confident in their product work with TryNow, and so we tend to have a lot of really strong, unique, novel, great products on our platform.
That's great. All right, so let's roll, and let's talk real quickly about AI. How much is AI playing a role in the technology side, figuring out, elements. I mean, just let you speak to the fact of it. Are you implementing? You must be implementing some levels of AI into this.
Yeah. Well, first thing is, everyone talks about AI right now, right? If you go on LinkedIn, your newsfeed is filled with AI,
Right.
AI stories, AI spam, AI use cases, some that are valuable, some that are not. I think if there was a checkbox on LinkedIn that could allow me to remove AI-oriented posts, I probably would check it.
Yeah.
However, at TryNow, like, the first thing is every single person on our team is using AI throughout the day, not even daily, like throughout the day, constantly throughout the day. So that's something that we preach. At the end of the day, like, the differentiation between any team is their people, and it's how their people leverage AI to be more effective. Leverage anything to be more effective. We hire relentlessly resourceful people at TryNow, and relentlessly resourceful people are definitely using the latest and greatest tools, and AI is that. So whether you're on the commercial team at TryNow or you're an engineer at TryNow, you are using TryNow. You're using AI to build more product, to service more customers more effectively, more efficiently with AI. So that's like the first piece. The second area is like, what parts of our stack is like deterministic software more effective, where there's just kind of one path, and we want to make sure that we achieve that path in a reliable, dependable way, and deterministic rules-based software is best. There's other areas of our business where it is much more ripe for AI-oriented opportunities. And currently, when a brand implements TryNow, they add a second button to the product page. They'll maybe add some marketing on their homepage. they'll add a collection page and some landing pages. And those are static. And the results are really effective. Now, when we have brands that market TryNow more strategically, they see outsized impact, higher number of new customer acquisitions, reduction in customer acquisition costs. How to market that effectively and how to serve the TryNow offer to the right shopper at the right time is difficult. But I think that's a huge opportunity for catalyzing growth for brands. So we're definitely we can't kind of release much at the moment, but we're definitely focused on how AI can drive customer value. But for us, you see a lot of software companies that are venture backed that are focusing on raising the next round of funding. The reality is that whether you like it or not, if you want to raise the next round of funding at a healthy valuation, you need to have an AI story. TryNow will never optimize around doing that. That's just not how we operate. What we will focus on is building product that drives an insane amount of merchant value, and we'll take a very small percentage of the value that we create because that's just kind of how we roll. And so if AI can help us do that and amplify the value, then we will absolutely lean very heavily into that. Not to raise another round of funding, but to deliver merchant value.
No, I love that. Well, talk to me about the implementation just a little bit more, and specifically around the marketing. You mentioned that the brands that actually put the attention into marketing, the model, succeed. How do you, in that implementation process, ensure that they utilize? You provide them with marketing, like, hey, this is how this brand is doing it, or here's some assets that you can use on your site. Like, how do you get that in front of them?
Yeah. So step one, we have a bit of a phased rollout. So phase one of that program is we'll add the PDP component, so a second button, or if you're a subscription company, we'll embed that behind your radio inputs in your subscription offering. We'll create a collection page or a landing page. We'll link that in the navigation, and we'll use a feature that we call TryLinks. So that TryLink feature allows us to track clicks and the conversion funnel to understand how are those pages converting. The goal is for those pages to be your highest converting pages by a very high margin. So take Elwood as an example. The TryNow collection page converts 2 times higher converting than any other collection page in their navigation. It gave them a lot of confidence to lean in more heavily into the program around marketing. So in phase one, about 30 to 45 days, a brand will go live. Gather some order volume will be about anywhere from 7.5 to 12.5, maybe 15% of the business, percentage of orders, and at that point they'll wait 30 days or so, allow returns to come through, make sure that their unit economics are really strong and healthy. Once they see that data and they see that TryNow customers become more profitable to their brand compared to Buy Now customers, they then lean into marketing because, hey, if we're not pushing them through the TryNow funnel, we're leaving money on the table. And so then when they see higher per customer and per order profit on those TryNow orders, plus the CPA coming down, it just becomes much more profound. But we recommend that brands wait, gather the data so that they feel confident, then they lean into marketing. And then when they lean into marketing, we help coach them through different approaches. Typically start with email and SMS. So anywhere where new customer acquisition is a kind of core focus, so email welcome flows, browser abandonment, cart abandonment campaigns is really powerful in addition to paid ads. Then we'll also do a discount transition audit for our brands. So we'll look at where do discounts live within the flow. So email welcome flows, cart abandonment is another example, and anywhere else where 10%, 15, 20% offer is used to convert, because that cart value is $0, shoppers use those discount codes less frequently because they're less price sensitive. So if we can convert them with a try before you buy offer at full price first, then we can lean on discounts further down in the flow so that we're being a little bit more surgical and targeted with when and how we use those discounts.
Wow. I mean, honestly, as people are listening to this, it speaks volumes to the psychological approach to e-commerce. And And that's how it should be. We're just talking how do we get people to buy more, feel comfortable in the shopping experience. I love that. Where do you see it going? What do you, without, giving us give us your playbook for the next 5 years, but, where do you see, TryNow going, and where do you see the market? Is this, you want to see, dozens and dozens of other verticals in place? What does it look like?
I think anything other than paper towels and toilet paper should be tried before it's bought. Like if it's discretionary, if you have uncertainty around the product, it should be tried before it's bought.
Well, you don't think toilet paper is a uncertain
it's funny
moment?
you say that. I bought I went deep on a discount for paper towels on Amazon Basics, and it was a huge mistake because I have tons of rolls of just complete garbage paper towels that we're just working our way through. So maybe paper towels should be tried.
Yeah, I feel like, that's a touching, situation there too. I mean, honestly, as I was preparing for this, I thought about that. I think that couldn't think of anything that couldn't be impacted by TryNow. And I did think toilet paper was one of those things that could be impacted. But,
I think the areas where it's less impactful or just more challenged is if a product cannot be resold. And particularly when those margins are high, it's wasteful for the environment and it is very expensive. So take mattresses as an example. You can't resell mattresses for obvious reasons, and it's very expensive to ship and return. So I think those categories are challenged, and they do orient around try before you buy. And they have stores, so you can go into a store and try mattresses, or you go into a Casper store, or I went into a Hastings store, which was probably the greatest in-store experience I've had in my entire life.
Why? Just out of curiosity, why was it so amazing?
Okay, a quick tangent. Do you know about these mattresses?
I don't know about this mattress. No.
Okay, so
because I need a new mattress.
Okay, I'll tell you about it. You could then decide if you want this mattress. So you go into the Hastings store. It's a Swedish company. You go in. I'm with my fiance. We walk in, and they greet us, and they're so kind. We're the only people in the store, and they say, "Hey, have a seat. Like try out the bed." And so we go try, of course, before we buy, and we're laying down. And we're like, wow, this is hands down the most comfortable mattress I have ever been in. And it was immediate. It was a 10x improvement above like any of the nicest mattresses I've ever slept on. And they said, would you mind if we did a little something? We said, sure. And so they clicked a button. The shades came down in the store. And so now like it became like your bedroom. And they put this like very expensive duvet over us. So now it's like 2 PM. We're a little tired. We're getting a little sleepy. We're like laying down in bed while they're doing some like guided meditation. And then halfway into that guided meditation, I said, this is incredible mattress. How much is this? And she said it was $75,000.
Wow.
So yes, it was the best in-store trying experience, but we got to sell a lot more software before I buy a $75,000 mattress.
I mean, talk about try. I always like to look at what's happening in the physical world. That is amazing. Like you could pull something that off. Wow. I will have to go find one of those stores just to experience at 2:00 in the afternoon what you just experienced. That's great. Wow. Okay. Well, what do you see? And do you when you're in physical retail, are you always looking and always paying attention to what's happening in physical retail to see, what can be implemented in the world of TryNow?
Yeah, constantly. I mean, I think that's always our comp. Yeah. We just keep going back to brick and mortar because it's been tested for thousands of years, and e-commerce is a big departure from brick and mortar. And we have a lot of like kind of sort of the analogs, like how sites are constructed, or like we have collections. We have carts, like in stores, we actually have shopping carts. So like everything is thought of to like align between online and brick and mortar. But one thing that you have in brick and mortar that you don't have online is a sales associate. And there are good sales associates and there are pushy sales associates. How do you become a good sales associate that really helps educate you about the brand educates the shopper about which products would be right for them, helps curate a collection, helps get them another size if they need another size, and just make that e-commerce transaction better. And if you make it better, then it'll convert better. So for us, like the input is a better customer experience. The output is higher conversion, higher AOV, higher LTV. But we always start with the customer experience. So yeah, we go into stores, we keep our eyes open. And one example of where e-commerce departs from the brick and mortar experience is, let's say you walked into a brick and mortar store and the first thing that happened is a sales associate pops out from the side and says, "Hey, Ramin, give me your email. I'll give you 10%. Like, whoa, let me just see the product first, right? And that's how most online stores operate. So
you're right.
How do we make things a little bit more natural? Is kind of what we're focused on.
Yeah. Well, there's so many lessons learned in this, beyond just TryNow. I mean, you're very knowledgeable, obviously, in the world of e-commerce and, the psychological aspects. I'm curious, if you were sitting, in front of a class, teaching a class on e-commerce and digital marketing, one piece of advice would you give future online entrepreneurs and e-commerce entrepreneurs to help them succeed?
Well, a piece of advice that was given to me was build a product so great that crappy marketing can sell it, and build marketing so great that it could sell a crappy product, but do it in that order. And so focus on the product, and until the product is great, don't fuel it with marketing. And so I think it's just a very simple advice, but it is an age-old tripwire for businesses that get out over their skis, start scaling a product before it's ready. And we see it with every type of business, whether it's an e-commerce business, it's a software business. We've made that mistake ourselves internally, where we think something's ready, we ship it a little bit too soon. And so it's always a tension between you don't want to wait too long, but you definitely need to have confidence in that product. And so that's the number one piece of advice that I'd probably provide.
Brilliant. Well, I wish I was in that class. I mean, that's a great, it's phenomenal. So as we wrap this up, you mentioned if you could check a box on LinkedIn not to get, AI related, because yes, everybody's talking about it. You mentioned the team is using it. You're probably using it, regularly. I'm always curious to know what's something that you've done using, whether it's ChatGPT or Claude or whichever one you love, that really made you stop and say, "Wow, like that is amazing, what that can do."
Well, I was talk about my personal Sunday ritual.
Yeah.
My personal Sunday ritual is I read through our shopper feedback every Sunday, and it allows me to keep a pulse on our program, how shoppers are resonating, any product issues that we have on our end, any issues that our merchants may have, what's working really well that we double down on, what's not working that we help solve and fix. And as our business scaled, I have had a challenging time reading a cross-section across our merchants. And then ever since, ChatGPT became powerful enough, we would just export our shopper feedback, and I sit down with my French press, and boom, I have all of that ready at my fingertips much more quickly. So for us, we use it in a lot of simple ways to accelerate our own growth and learning. And we are now starting to experiment more with AI agents to streamline internal processes. So I think where we're most focused on is we have teams internally that we're thinking about product use cases that drive merchant value. And those are some pretty exciting opportunities that I'm up at night just thinking about because it's super exciting. Those are bigger, more future kind of vision ideas. And then the second use case is thinking about our business as a product itself. So how do we work on our business as a product? And one way of doing that is automating processes with AI agents that are dedicated for specific tasks. So take one very easy example around prepping for a call with a merchant, a prospective merchant. Things that we want to know about a merchant are what's their price point, what's their approximate AOV, how many products and SKUs do they have. What's their returns management software solution? Do they use loop returns, happy, redo, return logic? What's their return policy? What's their free shipping threshold? All that information would take someone on our team, call it 10 to 15 minutes to gather. But if an AI agent can look at our calendars for the week and then create documents for all of that each week and send us an email with each document and call prep, we're ready to go. So things like that allow us to be a lot more efficient. And the impact that it has on merchants is that the fewer dollars we spend on sales, marketing, customers, like account management, the more money we can spend in product and engineering. And therefore, the better the product we can build, more value we can bring. So for us, we just try to keep funneling as much money into product and engineering and as little into activities that don't drive merchant value.
Beautiful. Wow, you just gave me a perfect idea for my agent. what I needed to do. I mean, that was great. That does save an incredible amount of time. That doesn't need to be, a human doesn't need to be doing that. And those are great examples. And that's something I would read on LinkedIn, by the way. That's somebody putting that piece of information out there. Well, Ben, this has been a masterclass, in just e-commerce. Not just about try before you buy, which is a brilliant piece of technology. And I guess at the end of the day, if you look at it, the simplicity, it's what has already happened in the physical world, and figuring out how to bring that, and make it better and better, and help these brands that may have uncertainty around their product, where consumers are not sure, to help them get sure real quickly. So I applaud you for getting this off the ground, building this, and thank you for making the time to come on and really educate us on TryNow and also e-commerce. And just take a moment and let everybody know, how they can find TryNow and how they can try TryNow, how they can actually get it in place. Let us know.
Yeah, we go to our site at trynow.com. It'll link you to our app on the Shopify App Store, which you can download and install for free, or our team is happy to help you get set up. And if you have any questions or you want to chat about the market, just drop me an email, ben@trynow.com.
That's wonderful. And we'll put all that information in the show notes, and hope that brands that maybe have never considered using this type of technology do consider it now. Thank you, Ben, for making the time.
Thanks, Ramin. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. All right, that brings us to the end of another episode of the E-Commerce Revolution podcast. Don't forget to check out past episodes, which are all available on demand on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcast. Ready to join the revolution? Become an exclusive part of our growing community of emerging e-commerce entrepreneurs at ecomrevolution.co. Until next time, see ya.